The morning mist clung to Riverside Military Installation like a shroud as Maya Rivera shuffled through the security checkpoint at 0630 hours, her oversized cardigan hanging loose on her slight frame and thick-rimmed glasses sliding down her nose. At 38, she had mastered the art of invisibility, moving through the bustling corridors like a ghost, clutching files against her chest with trembling hands that suggested fragility, rather than the steady precision that had once guided classified operations through hostile territory. What the Joint Chiefs would discover in 72 hours would shatter everything they thought they knew about the quiet woman who organized their paperwork and jumped at loud noises. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Maya's workspace in Building C was a study in organized chaos, towering stacks of personnel files, deployment schedules color-coded, with meticulous precision, and a small desk fan that hummed constantly to mask the slight tremor in her voice during phone calls. To the officers who occasionally visited the administrative wing, she was simply Rivera from Records, the nervous clerk who apologized for everything and seemed to shrink into herself whenever anyone spoke above a whisper. Her supervisor, Master Sergeant Frank Wilson, had long ago stopped assigning her anything requiring interaction with command staff, convinced that her anxiety would be a liability in high-pressure situations. "Rivera, I need the deployment manifest for the 3rd Squadron," Wilson called out that Tuesday morning, his voice carrying the impatient edge of someone dealing with what he perceived as incompetence, disguised as thoroughness. Maya's response was immediate, a barely audible "Yes, Sergeant," accompanied by the quick shuffle of papers and the soft click of computer keys. Within minutes, she had produced not just the requested manifests, but cross-referenced logistics reports, weather assessments, and supply chain analyses that most administrative staff wouldn't even know existed. Her attention to detail was extraordinary, though Wilson attributed it to the overcautiousness of someone trying to compensate for general inadequacy. What Wilson and the rest of the installation's personnel failed to notice were the subtle indicators that suggested Maya Rivera was far more than she appeared. Her desk positioning provided clear sight lines to all entrances and exits. Her computer screen was angled to prevent visual surveillance from anyone approaching from behind. The small mirror positioned near her monitor allowed her to monitor activity throughout the office without turning her head. These weren't the habits of an anxious clerk. They were the ingrained behaviors of someone trained in situational awareness and operational security. Maya's lunch routine was equally revealing to anyone with the knowledge to interpret it. Rather than joining colleagues in the cafeteria, she took solitary walks around the installation's perimeter, her route varying daily in patterns that appeared random, but actually provided comprehensive surveillance of security protocols, guard rotations, and potential vulnerability points. Her pace seemed leisurely, even hesitant, but her eyes cataloged everything: fence integrity, camera positioning, personnel movement patterns, and blind spots that could compromise base security. The other administrative staff had grown accustomed to Maya's quirks, her insistence on organizing files according to systems that seemed unnecessarily complex but produced remarkably efficient retrieval times, her habit of staying late to double-check work that was already perfect, though she actually used these hours to monitor base communications and maintain awareness of operational tempo. Her nervous tendency to carry multiple pens and notebooks, which provided cover for the small technical devices she used to stay current with evolving security protocols and threat assessments. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, the base psychologist, had observed Maya during mandatory wellness evaluations and noted her exceptional emotional control disguised as anxiety. Maya's responses to stress indicators suggested someone who had been exposed to extreme situations but had learned to channel psychological pressure into hypervigilance rather than breakdown. Her file contained recommendations for anxiety management that Maya had never needed but accepted to maintain her carefully constructed persona. The transformation that had brought Maya Rivera to this anonymous existence began 3 years earlier when a classified operation in Eastern Europe had gone catastrophically wrong. Not because of any failure in her performance, Captain Maya Shadow Rivera had successfully completed her mission objectives under impossible conditions, but because the political fallout required someone to disappear from official records. The 3rd Covert Operations Squadron had been disbanded, its members scattered to conventional assignments or early retirement, their extraordinary skills buried beneath layers of classification and bureaucratic necessity. Maya had chosen administrative duty over medical retirement, understanding that staying within the military structure, even in diminished capacity, provided better security than civilian life where her specialized training would be wasted and her psychological adjustment to normal society might prove challenging. The irony was profound. One of the military's most decorated stealth operatives had become invisible by hiding in plain sight among the very bureaucracy that supported the operations she had once led. Her current assignment kept her close to operational planning without direct involvement, allowing her to maintain situational awareness while appearing to pose no threat to operational security. The personnel files she managed contained deployment schedules, training assessments, and mission preparation documentation that kept her informed about current threat environments and tactical developments. Her access was legitimate but limited, providing enough information to stay current without raising suspicions about her continued interest in operational matters. The relationship between Maya's past and present created a complex psychological dynamic that she managed with the same precision she brought to administrative tasks. Captain Shadow Rivera had been legendary for her ability to infiltrate hostile territory, gather critical intelligence, and extract personnel from impossible situations without leaving any trace of her presence. Maya Rivera, the clerk, was legendary only for her ability to produce requested documents faster than anyone expected, and to remain so forgettable that people often couldn't remember whether they had spoken to her or simply found the information they needed mysteriously available. But beneath the carefully maintained facade of institutional invisibility, Maya's tactical mind remained active. She analyzed base security with the same intensity she had once applied to enemy installations. She identified weaknesses in personnel vetting with the expertise she had developed while operating under deep cover. She recognized patterns in operational tempo that suggested emerging threats or changing strategic priorities. The nervous clerk who jumped at sudden noises was actually monitoring sound patterns that indicated normal versus abnormal activity throughout the installation. As evening approached and the administrative offices emptied, Maya remained at her desk, ostensibly organizing files for the next day's requirements. In reality, she was processing the accumulated intelligence she had gathered through seemingly routine conversations overheard in hallways, document patterns that suggested operational preparations, and personnel movements that indicated shifting priorities within the command structure. The quiet woman who had spent her day apologizing for minor delays in speaking in whispers was actually one of the most situationally aware individuals on the entire installation. Her perceived fragility was perhaps the most sophisticated camouflage ever employed by someone whose legend had once required that enemy forces be warned never to assume any operation was secure. If Shadow was in the area, Maya Rivera had become a master of the most challenging infiltration mission of her career, hiding her true capabilities from the very organization that had trained her to be extraordinary. Tomorrow would begin the sequence of events that would shatter that carefully maintained invisibility and remind the Joint Chiefs why Captain Shadow Rivera had been considered irreplaceable. The fragile clerk was about to become a legend once again. Wednesday morning arrived with the typical rhythms of military efficiency. But Maya Rivera's day began 2 hours before anyone else set foot in Building C at 0430 hours. While the installation slept under pre-dawn darkness, she moved through corridors with the silent precision of someone whose muscle memory retained training that most people would never receive. Her keycard access to the administrative wing appeared routine, but Maya used these early hours for purposes that would have astonished her colleagues if they understood what they were witnessing. Her first stop was always the communication center's periphery, where she conducted what appeared to be routine equipment checks, but actually involved monitoring radio frequencies for unusual traffic patterns, encrypted burst transmissions, or communication protocols that might indicate developing situations. Maya's hearing had been trained to identify specific acoustic signatures, the subtle differences between routine operational chatter and the tense undertones that preceded crisis response. This morning, she detected nothing unusual but her surveillance continued as naturally as breathing. The administrative offices transformed as Maya prepared for another day of orchestrated invisibility. Her filing system, which colleagues dismissed as obsessively detailed, actually contained intelligence assessments disguised as personnel records. Every document she processed was analyzed for operational implications that escaped notice from supervisors who saw only bureaucratic efficiency. Deployment schedules revealed strategic priorities, training records indicated tactical preparedness levels, and supply requisitions suggested emerging mission requirements that painted a comprehensive picture of the installation's readiness. Posture. Lieutenant Emma Carter arrived at 0800 hours, with the crisp confidence of someone whose pilot training had instilled unshakable faith in procedure and hierarchy. She approached Maya's desk with a request that seemed routine, but would later prove significant in ways neither woman could anticipate. "Rivera, I need the flight training records for our new pilots, specifically their scores on navigation and combat maneuvering exercises," Carter said, her tone carrying the casual authority of someone accustomed to immediate compliance from support staff. Maya's response was instantaneous, not just the requested records, but comprehensive analyses that included weather condition variables, aircraft performance correlations, and psychological assessment factors that most training officers never considered. Her computer skills appeared pedestrian to casual observers, but she was actually accessing multiple databases simultaneously, cross-referencing information with the speed and sophistication of someone whose survival had once depended on rapid intelligence synthesis. "Here are the primary records you requested," Maya said softly, her voice maintaining the apologetic undertone that had become her signature characteristic. "I've also included correlational data that might be relevant for advanced training planning." Carter examined the documents with growing surprise. The analyses revealed training deficiencies in aptitude patterns that would have required weeks of specialized assessment to identify through conventional evaluation methods. Maya had somehow identified pilots who needed additional support, predicted performance improvements based on specific training modifications, and highlighted individuals whose capabilities exceeded their current assignments. "Rivera, this is incredibly thorough," Carter said, her professional appreciation overriding her initial assumptions about Maya's capabilities. "How did you compile these performance correlations so quickly?" Maya's deflection was practiced and effective. "I just like to be prepared, ma'am." Sometimes pattern recognition helps with administrative efficiency. What she didn't mention was that her analytical methods came from years of assessing personnel under combat conditions, where accurate evaluation of human performance under stress had meant the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. Throughout the morning, Maya's interactions revealed the sophisticated intelligence that operated beneath her nervous exterior. Master Sergeant Wilson requested maintenance schedules for transport aircraft, expecting standard documentation, but receiving comprehensive logistical analyses that identified potential equipment failures weeks before they would manifest. Colonel James Mitchell needed personnel assignments for an upcoming training exercise, receiving not just the requested information, but strategic recommendations that optimized team composition based on psychological compatibility assessments that Maya had conducted through seemingly casual observations. Her lunch routine continued the pattern of invisible excellence. While colleagues saw a nervous woman taking solitary walks to manage anxiety, Maya was actually conducting professional surveillance that would have impressed intelligence specialists. Her route through the installation provided opportunities to assess security implementations, personnel efficiency, and operational readiness that most officers never evaluated comprehensively. She identified vulnerabilities in perimeter monitoring, recognized patterns in guard rotation that could be exploited by hostile actors, and monitored communication discipline among personnel who didn't realize their conversations were being professionally assessed. Maya's afternoon was interrupted by Dr. Jennifer Walsh, who had scheduled a routine psychological evaluation that represented one of Maya's most challenging performances. Maintaining her constructed persona under professional psychological scrutiny required skills that few people possessed: the ability to project authentic anxiety while concealing extraordinary competence, to appear fragile while demonstrating the emotional resilience that had sustained her through operations that would have destroyed most people psychologically. "Maya, how are you adapting to the increased operational tempo around the base?" Dr. Walsh asked, her tone carrying the professional warmth that encouraged honest disclosure while she observed micro-expressions and physiological indicators that might reveal underlying stress patterns. "It's been a little overwhelming," Maya replied, allowing her voice to carry the tremor that had become expected while her eyes maintained the alertness that she couldn't entirely suppress. "I try to stay focused on my work and not think too much about all the activity around here." Dr. Walsh noted Maya's response with interest. Her stress indicators were remarkably controlled for someone who claimed to be overwhelmed by routine operational changes. Her breathing pattern suggested someone with advanced relaxation training. Her posture indicated physical conditioning that exceeded normal administrative requirements, and her eye movement patterns revealed situational awareness that bordered on hypervigilance. The psychological profile that emerged was fascinating. Someone whose anxiety appeared genuine, but whose underlying competence suggested capabilities that didn't match her current assignment. The afternoon brought Maya's most complex challenge. When General Patricia Summers conducted an unannounced inspection of administrative efficiency, Maya found herself face to face with one of the military's most senior officers, someone whose own intelligence background might recognize indicators that escaped notice from less experienced personnel. The interaction required every aspect of Maya's cover maintenance skills. "Rivera, I understand you've been providing exceptional administrative support," General Summers said, her tone neutral but her eyes conducting the kind of assessment that missed nothing significant. "Your supervisors indicate that your attention to detail exceeds normal standards." Maya's response balanced self-deprecation with professional competence. "I just try to be thorough, General. Sometimes taking extra time with preparation saves problems later." Her body language projected nervous respect while her mind analyzed General Summers' own security protocols, noting details about the General's protection detail, communication equipment, and behavioral patterns that could prove relevant if circumstances required such information. The conversation continued for several minutes, during which Maya successfully maintained her constructed identity, while General Summers conducted what amounted to an informal intelligence assessment. The General's questions were seemingly casual, but actually designed to evaluate Maya's knowledge base, analytical capabilities, and psychological stability. Maya's answers suggested competence slightly above average for administrative personnel, while concealing the strategic intelligence that would have immediately identified her as someone with specialized training. As evening approached and the administrative offices emptied, Maya remained at her desk for what appeared to be routine overtime, but actually represented her most important work of the day. Using legitimate access to personnel databases, she maintained awareness of deployment schedules, training assessments, and operational readiness indicators that kept her informed about the installation's strategic posture. Her analysis identified emerging patterns that suggested potential security concerns, operational inefficiencies, and personnel issues that escaped notice from supervisors who lacked her analytical background. The document she prepared that evening, disguised as a routine administrative report, actually contained intelligence assessments that would have impressed the Pentagon's strategic planning staff. Her recommendations for administrative efficiency improvements were actually security enhancements that addressed vulnerabilities she had identified through professional surveillance. Her personnel management suggestions were based on psychological profiles that revealed individual capabilities and incomprensibles limitations with remarkable accuracy. Maya Rivera had successfully completed another day of the most sophisticated undercover operation of her career, hiding extraordinary capabilities within ordinary administrative duties while maintaining intelligence awareness that kept her prepared for situations that might require her true skills. Tomorrow would bring developments that would test whether 3 years of carefully maintained invisibility had dulled her tactical instincts or simply refined them. For the moment when Captain Shadow Rivera would be needed once again, the nervous clerk who apologized for everything was actually monitoring threats that others couldn't recognize and maintaining readiness for challenges that she hoped would never come. Thursday morning shattered the installation's routine at 0347 hours, when the emergency alert system screamed through corridors with the urgent tone that meant real crisis, not drill. Maya Rivera was already awake in her small quarters above the VUV administrative building, her internal chronometer having detected subtle changes in the base's electromagnetic signature that preceded official notifications by 17 minutes. As personnel throughout Riverside Military Installation responded to the alarm with varying degrees of readiness, Maya was already analyzing the situation with professional assessment skills that had been dormant for 3 years but never truly diminished. The initial briefing crackled through communication systems with information that sent experienced officers into controlled panic mode. A classified research facility deep in the mountain wilderness of Colorado had gone completely dark during what intelligence agencies now confirmed was a coordinated terrorist attack. The facility, designated only as Research Station Echo, housed technological developments that could not be allowed to fall into hostile hands under any circumstances. More critically, 12 civilian scientists and 4 military liaison officers were confirmed trapped inside the facility's secure bunker system, their survival dependent on rescue operations that conventional forces appeared incapable of executing. Maya moved through the corridors of Building C with her characteristic nervous shuffle, but her mind was processing tactical information with the lightning-fast analysis that had made Captain Shadow Rivera legendary among special operations communities. Research Station Echo was built into a mountainside specifically to prevent conventional assault, multiple access points, overlapping security systems, and natural geographical barriers that would funnel any rescue attempt through predetermined kill zones. The terrorist organization claiming responsibility had chosen their target with sophisticated understanding of both the facility's strategic value and its defensive vulnerabilities. Colonel James Mitchell established his Crisis Command Center in the main conference room, transforming the space into a hub of frustrated activity as intelligence reports painted an increasingly grim picture. The terrorists, identified as members of an international syndicate with advanced training and equipment, had demonstrated tactical sophistication that suggested military-level planning. They had disabled communication systems, sealed primary access routes, and positioned defensive emplacements that would make conventional rescue operations prohibitively costly in both time and casualties. The facility's emergency protocols automatically sealed the bunker when the attack began. Mitchell explained to his assembled staff, his voice carrying the tension of someone facing impossible tactical equations. Our people are safe for now, but they have approximately 72 hours of life support. After that, we're looking at a recovery operation instead of a rescue mission. Maya positioned herself near the conference room's entrance, ostensibly organizing documentation but actually absorbing every detail of the operational briefing with the professional attention that had sustained her through years of mission planning under similar pressure. The satellite imagery being displayed showed terrain that would challenge even specialized mountain warfare units, defensive positions that indicated enemy forces with advanced tactical training, and access routes that appeared to offer no viable approach options for conventional military forces. Lieutenant Emma Carter raised the question that everyone was considering but hadn't voiced directly. Sir, what's our assessment of conventional rescue capabilities? Do we have units trained for this type of operation? Mitchell's response revealed the scope of the challenge they faced. The 75th Ranger Regiment has mountain warfare specialists, but they're currently deployed overseas. Our available forces include standard infantry, units with limited mountain training, and helicopter crews who lack experience with the altitude and weather conditions we're dealing with. Intelligence estimates suggest that conventional assault would result in heavy casualties among both rescue forces and hostages. Maya felt something stirring in her chest, a familiar combination of professional recognition and moral imperative that she had thought permanently buried beneath 3 years of administrative routine. The tactical problem developing before her eyes was exactly the type of challenge that had defined her career as Captain Shadow Rivera. Deep penetration into hostile territory, extraction of personnel from secure facilities, operations requiring complete stealth to avoid triggering responses that would endanger hostages. These weren't theoretical scenarios for Maya, but mission profiles she had executed successfully when others declared them impossible. General Patricia Summers arrived via secure communication link from Pentagon headquarters, her image filling the main display screen as she addressed the crisis team. With the authority of someone whose decisions would determine whether 16 people lived or died, her assessment was brutally realistic and strategically focused. The technology housed at Research Station Echo represents years of classified development that our adversaries cannot be allowed to access, General Summers stated, her tone carrying the weight of national security implications that extended far beyond the immediate hostage situation. However, our primary objective remains the safe recovery of personnel. We need options that balance operational security with human life preservation. Maya absorbed General Summers' briefing with growing recognition that the crisis required exactly the specialized capabilities that had made her irreplaceable during her active service years. Research Station Echo's security protocols were designed to prevent exactly the type of infiltration mission that would be necessary for successful hostage extraction. But Maya understood that security systems always contained vulnerabilities that could be exploited by someone with sufficient training and tactical creativity. The morning progressed with increasing frustration as conventional military planning struggled to develop viable options. Standard helicopter insertion was ruled out due to altitude challenges and enemy anti-aircraft capabilities. Ground assault approaches were eliminated because of terrain difficulties and defensive positioning that would expose rescue forces to unacceptable casualties. Remote technical solutions proved inadequate because the facility's communication systems had been specifically disabled to prevent external override of security protocols. Master Sergeant Frank Wilson found Maya at her desk during the early afternoon, his expression reflecting the stress of someone watching colleagues struggle with problems that might not have solutions. Maya had maintained her routine administrative duties throughout the crisis, but Wilson noticed that her nervous energy seemed more controlled than usual. as if external pressure was actually stabilizing rather than agitating her psychological state. "Rivera, I need you to compile personnel files for anyone with mountain warfare training or special operations background," Wilson said, his request carrying the desperate undertone of someone exploring every possible resource. "Command is looking for anyone who might have relevant experience for the situation." Maya's response was immediate and comprehensive, but she also used Wilson's request as an opportunity to access personnel databases that would reveal the installation's actual special operations capabilities. Her analysis confirmed what she had suspected. Riverside Military Installation housed standard forces with limited specialized training, but no personnel with the deep infiltration expertise that Research Station Echo would require. As she prepared the requested files, Maya found herself conducting her own tactical assessment of the crisis. The satellite imagery suggested approach routes that conventional planners had overlooked. The facility security protocols contained potential vulnerabilities that could be exploited through specific technical knowledge, and the hostage situation presented psychological dynamics that required understanding of both terrorist methodology and victim response patterns. These weren't academic considerations for Maya, but practical problems she had solved successfully during operations that remained classified at the highest levels. The afternoon brought news that intensified the urgency surrounding Research Station Echo. Intelligence agencies confirmed that the terrorist organization possessed technical specialists capable of eventually breaching the facility's most secure systems. The hostage's 72-hour life support timeline was also being complicated by psychological stress factors that could accelerate medical emergencies among civilian personnel who lacked training for crisis situations. Maya completed her administrative duties with mechanical efficiency, while her tactical mind analyzed every aspect of the developing crisis. She recognized approach vectors that others had missed, identified security weaknesses that could be exploited, and understood hostage psychology in ways that would prove critical for successful extraction operations. But revealing this knowledge would mean abandoning the carefully constructed anonymity that had protected her for 3 years and accepting responsibility for an operation that would test skills she hadn't used professionally since her legendary career ended. As evening approached, Maya realized that 16 lives were depending on military personnel who were doing their best with training and experience that might not be sufficient for the challenge they faced. The fragile clerk who had spent 3 years apologizing for minor inefficiencies was actually the only person at Riverside Military Installation with the specialized expertise required to bring those people home alive. The question wasn't whether Captain "Shadow" Rivera could execute the impossible mission that conventional forces couldn't attempt. The question was whether Maya Rivera was ready to step out of the shadows and risk everything to save 16 lives that only she had the skills to rescue. Friday dawn brought devastating news that confirmed Maya's worst tactical predictions. The 82nd Airborne's mountain warfare specialists had attempted a conventional helicopter insertion during pre-dawn darkness, approaching Research Station Echo through what appeared to be the most viable route based on satellite reconnaissance. The mission had ended in catastrophe that sent shockwaves through the Pentagon's Crisis Management Center and left Maya Rivera watching her colleagues grapple with failure that she had foreseen but been unable to prevent without revealing capabilities that would shatter her carefully maintained cover. Colonel Mitchell delivered the briefing with the grim professionalism of someone whose career had taught him to present devastating information without allowing personal emotion to compromise. Operational analysis. 2 helicopters from the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment had been shot down by advanced surface-to-air missile systems that intelligence assessments had failed to identify. 6 crew members were confirmed dead, with 4 additional personnel listed as missing and presumed captured. The terrorist organization had demonstrated tactical sophistication that exceeded all previous estimates. While the hostage situation had deteriorated from rescue operation to international incident with strategic implications that reached the highest levels of government, Maya absorbed the briefing from her position near the conference room entrance, maintaining her characteristic nervous posture, while her mind processed tactical failures that she could have prevented if conventional military planning had included the specialized knowledge that Captain Maya Rivera possessed. The approach routes chosen by the 82nd Airborne were textbook correct for standard mountain operations, but they failed to account for defensive positioning that someone with deep infiltration experience would have recognized immediately. Missile systems that destroyed both helicopters were positioned exactly where Maya would have placed them if she were designing layered defenses for a facility like Research Station Echo. General Summers' secure communication link crackled with frustration that barely contained the political pressure cascading down from Washington. The failed rescue attempt had triggered international media attention that compromised operational security, while demonstrating American military vulnerability that adversaries around the world were analyzing for strategic advantage. More critically, the terrorist organization had used the failed assault as leverage to accelerate their timeline for accessing Research Station Echo's classified technology, reducing the hostage extraction window from 72 hours to less than 36 hours. Intelligence confirms that the enemy now possesses advanced technical equipment taken from our downed aircraft, General Summers announced, her voice carrying implications that extended far beyond the immediate crisis. They're using our own systems to accelerate their infiltration of the facility's secure areas. We're now facing simultaneous threats, hostage extraction and prevention of technology transfer that could compromise national security for decades. Lieutenant Carter raised the question that military professionals around the world would be asking within hours. General, what options remain available? Conventional assault has proven ineffective, and we're running out of time for alternative approaches. The silence that followed Carter's question was profound enough to hear individual heartbeats throughout the conference room. Maya recognized the tactical reality that her colleagues were struggling to accept. Research Station Echo required infiltration methods that conventional military forces weren't trained to execute. The facility's defenses had been specifically designed to defeat standard assault techniques, while the terrorist organization's sophistication suggested planning by personnel with advanced military backgrounds who understood exactly how American forces would approach rescue operations. Maya felt professional recognition stirring in her chest as she watched her colleagues confront limitations that she could overcome if she were willing to abandon 3 years of carefully constructed anonymity. The mission parameters developing before her eyes were identical to operations that had made Captain Maya Rivera legendary among special operations communities. Deep penetration into hostile territory, infiltration of secure facilities defended by sophisticated adversaries, extraction of personnel under conditions that conventional forces declared impossible. These weren't theoretical challenges for Maya, but mission profiles she had executed successfully when others claimed they couldn't be attempted. Master Sergeant Wilson approached Maya's desk during the afternoon with the expression of someone exploring desperate options that might not exist. The crisis had transformed Riverside Military Installation into a coordination center where personnel from multiple agencies struggled to develop solutions using resources that appeared inadequate for the challenges they faced. Rivera, I need complete personnel files for anyone, and I mean anyone, who might have specialized training that could be relevant for this situation, Wilson said, his tone carrying the urgency of someone who understood that conventional approaches had failed catastrophically. Deep reconnaissance, mountain warfare, infiltration techniques, technical penetration, hostage psychology, anything that might give us options we haven't considered. Maya's response was thorough and immediate, but her analysis of available personnel confirmed what she had already determined through her own assessment of the installation's capabilities. Riverside housed competent military professionals with Standard training, but no personnel with the specialized expertise that Research Station Echo would require. The closest match was Lieutenant Carter, whose pilot training included some low-altitude navigation techniques, but her experience was limited to conventional flight operations rather than the covert insertion methods that would be necessary. For successful infiltration. As Maya compiled the requested documentation, she found herself conducting her own mission planning, analysis using tactical knowledge that had been dormant for 3 years but remained sharp, enough to identify solutions that others couldn't recognize. The satellite imagery revealed approach, routes that conventional planners had overlooked because they required infiltration techniques that standard military training didn't include. The facility's security protocols contained vulnerabilities that could be exploited through specific technical methods that Maya had mastered during operations that remained classified at the highest levels. The afternoon brought additional intelligence that painted an increasingly desperate picture. The terrorist organization had successfully breached the facility's outer security perimeters and was making steady progress toward the bunker systems where the hostages were trapped. Psychological assessments suggested that civilian scientists were experiencing severe stress reactions that could trigger medical emergencies, while the military liaison officers were struggling to maintain morale among personnel who lacked training. For extended crisis situations. Dr. Jennifer Walsh joined the crisis management team to provide psychological consultation about hostage management, her expertise revealing additional complications that conventional rescue planning hadn't adequately considered. The civilian scientists included individuals with medical conditions that required specific medications, elderly researchers whose physical condition might not survive extended stress, and younger personnel whose psychological profile suggested vulnerability to panic responses that could complicate extraction operations. The hostage population includes variables that will significantly impact any rescue attempt. Dr. Walsh explained to the assembled staff, her analysis revealing human factors that tactical planning often overlooked. We're dealing with individuals whose psychological preparation for crisis situations ranges from minimal to non-existent, medical conditions that could deteriorate rapidly under stress, and group dynamics that might fragment under pressure. Maya listened to Dr. Walsh's assessment with professional interest that extended beyond her administrative role. Hostage psychology had been a critical component of her training as Captain Maya Rivera, and she recognized that the civilian scientists would require specialized handling techniques that conventional military personnel weren't taught. The extraction operation would need to account for psychological management alongside tactical execution, requiring expertise that combined combat skills with understanding of human behavior under extreme stress. As evening approached, Maya realized that the crisis at Research Station Echo was exceeding the capabilities of conventional military response in ways that would result in catastrophic failure unless someone with specialized training intervened. The terrorist organization possessed sophisticated tactical knowledge that had already defeated standard assault techniques, while the hostage situation presented psychological and medical challenges that required expertise beyond normal military training. The failed helicopter assault had demonstrated that conventional approaches would not succeed against adversaries who understood American military doctrine well enough to defeat it systematically. The accelerated timeline meant that traditional special operations units wouldn't have sufficient time to deploy and conduct the detailed reconnaissance that successful infiltration required. Maya Rivera found herself facing the decision that would determine whether 16 people lived or died, whether classified technology fell into hostile hands, and whether her 3 years of careful anonymity would be shattered forever. The nervous clerk who had apologized for everything was actually the only person within reach who possessed the specialized capabilities required to attempt what conventional forces had proven unable to accomplish. Captain Maya Rivera was about to be needed again, and Maya Rivera was Saturday morning arrived with the weight of inevitability pressing down on Riverside Military Installation, like atmospheric pressure before a devastating storm. Maya Rivera stood at her small apartment window, watching the pre-dawn activity below. As personnel moved with the urgent efficiency of people who understood that time was running out for 16 lives trapped in a mountain facility that conventional forces had proven unable to reach. In 18 hours, the hostages would begin dying from oxygen depletion, while classified technology that could alter global power balances would fall into hostile hands that knew exactly how to exploit American vulnerabilities. The secure phone beside Maya's bed had been ringing every 30 minutes since 0200 hours as Pentagon officials coordinated increasingly desperate attempts to identify alternative solutions. Each conversation that she monitored through communication intercepts revealed the same devastating reality. No available forces possessed the specialized infiltration capabilities required to penetrate Research Station Echo's defenses without triggering responses that would kill the hostages and destroy the technology they were trying to protect. Maya's internal chronometer indicated that conventional military planning had approximately 6 hours remaining before political pressure would force attempts that senior officers knew would fail catastrophically. The Joint Chiefs of Staff were facing congressional oversight committees that demanded immediate action, while international allies were questioning American special operations capabilities that had been considered unmatched until yesterday's helicopter disaster demonstrated their limitations. Against sophisticated adversaries, the decision that Maya had been avoiding for 3 years now pressed against her consciousness with the relentless urgency of mission parameters that allowed no compromise between success and catastrophic failure. Captain Shadow Rivera had been created through training programs that cost millions of dollars and required psychological preparation that destroyed some candidates completely. But the skills that resulted from that investment were precisely what Research Station Echo required. Maya Rivera had spent 3 years learning to find satisfaction in administrative service that required no recognition and carried no responsibility for life or death decisions. But 16 people were about to die because she was afraid to acknowledge capabilities that could save them. The walk to Building C felt like a journey through her own psychological landscape. As Maya navigated between 2 identities that seemed irreconcilable, but were actually different expressions of the same fundamental commitment to service, the nervous clerk who apologized for everything had found peace in anonymity that required no extraordinary performance under pressure. Captain Shadow Rivera had thrived on challenges that pushed human capabilities to their absolute limits, while accepting responsibility for outcomes that could determine national security for decades. Maya's morning routine proceeded with mechanical precision while her mind conducted the tactical analysis that would determine whether she stepped forward or allowed events to unfold without her intervention. Research Station Echo's defenses were sophisticated, but not impenetrable to someone with her specific training background. The terrorist organization possessed advanced equipment and tactical knowledge, but they were defending static positions against infiltration techniques they had never encountered. The hostage psychology presented complex challenges, but Maya's experience with civilian extraction under stress provided methodologies that conventional military personnel didn't possess. The Crisis Command Center had transformed into a hub of controlled desperation as intelligence reports painted an increasingly grim picture of the situation developing in the Colorado mountains. Colonel Mitchell's morning briefing revealed that the terrorist organization had successfully penetrated the facility's secondary security barriers and was making steady progress toward the bunker systems where the hostages were trapped. Psychological monitoring suggested that several civilian scientists were approaching medical crisis points that could trigger cascading emergencies among the entire group. Current intelligence indicates we have less than 12 hours before the situation becomes irreversible, Mitchell announced to his assembled staff. his voice carrying the weight of someone whose decisions would be analyzed by congressional committees and international observers for years to come. Pentagon assessment is that no available conventional forces can execute successful infiltration within our remaining timeline. Maya positioned herself near the conference room entrance with her characteristic nervous demeanor, but her mind was processing tactical information with the lightning-fast analysis that had sustained her through operations that others declared impossible. The satellite imagery being displayed showed defensive positions that she could bypass through approach routes that conventional planners hadn't considered. The facility's technical specifications revealed vulnerabilities that could be exploited using infiltration methods that her specialized training had taught her to recognize immediately. Lieutenant Carter raised the question that everyone was considering but hesitating to voice directly. "Sir, are we exploring any unconventional options? Personnel with specialized backgrounds who might not be immediately obvious from standard military records." Mitchell's response revealed the desperation that was driving increasingly creative thinking throughout the Pentagon's crisis management hierarchy. "We're reviewing every possible resource, including retired special operations personnel, civilian contractors with relevant experience, and international cooperation agreements that might provide access to specialized capabilities. However, none of these options can be implemented within our current timeline constraints." Maya felt something unlock in her chest as she listened to colleagues struggling with challenges that she could address if she were willing to abandon the safety of anonymity that had protected her for 3 years. The tactical problem developing before her eyes was exactly the type of mission that had defined her career as Captain Shadow Rivera: deep penetration into hostile territory, infiltration of secure facilities defended by sophisticated adversaries, extraction of personnel under conditions that conventional forces declared impossible. The moral calculus that Maya faced was brutal in its simplicity. 16 innocent people would die if she maintained her carefully constructed cover, while classified technology that could enable future terrorist attacks would fall into hostile hands that understood exactly how to exploit American vulnerabilities. But revealing her capabilities would mean accepting responsibility for a mission that would test skills she hadn't used professionally in 3 years, while exposing herself to scrutiny that could destroy the peaceful anonymity she had learned to value. Dr. Jennifer Walsh joined the morning briefing to provide updated psychological assessments that intensified the urgency surrounding hostage extraction. Her analysis revealed that civilian scientists were experiencing stress reactions that could trigger medical emergencies, while group dynamics were fragmenting in ways that would complicate any rescue attempt that conventional forces might eventually organize. The hostage population is approaching psychological crisis points that will significantly impact their ability to cooperate with extraction procedures. Dr. Walsh explained, her expertise revealing human factors that tactical planning often overlooked. "We're dealing with panic responses, medical condition deterioration, and leadership breakdown among individuals who lack preparation for extended crisis situations." Maya absorbed Dr. Walsh's assessment with professional recognition that extended far beyond her administrative role. Hostage psychology had been a critical component of her training as Captain Shadow Rivera, and she understood that civilian scientists would require specialized handling techniques that conventional military personnel weren't taught. The extraction operation would need to account for psychological management alongside tactical execution, requiring expertise that combined infiltration skills with understanding of human behavior under extreme stress. As the morning progressed, Maya found herself conducting detailed mission planning analysis using tactical knowledge that had remained sharp despite 3 years of administrative routine. She identified approach vectors that satellite reconnaissance had missed, recognized security vulnerabilities that could be exploited through specific technical methods, and understood hostage management requirements that would prove critical. For successful extraction operations, the weight of decision pressed against Maya's consciousness like atmospheric pressure at high altitude as she realized that her specialized capabilities represented the only viable option for bringing 16 people home alive. Captain Shadow Rivera had been legendary precisely because she attempted missions that others declared impossible, succeeding through combination of technical expertise, tactical creativity, and psychological resilience that conventional training couldn't replicate. Maya Rivera had spent 3 years learning that service took many forms, all of them valuable when performed with competence and dedication. But 16 lives were depending on specialized service that only she could provide, and the comfortable anonymity that had protected her from extraordinary responsibility was about to be shattered by moral imperatives that allowed no compromise between action and catastrophic failure. The nervous clerk who had apologized for everything was standing at the threshold of becoming Captain Shadow Rivera once again, and time was running out for the decision that would determine whether her legend would save lives or watch them slip away while she maintained the safety of invisibility. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The moment that would change everything arrived at 13:47 hours when Maya Rivera sat down her administrative files and walked toward the Crisis Command Center with the steady determination of someone who had made a decision that would shatter 3 years of carefully constructed anonymity. The conversations around Colonel Mitchell's conference table ceased as personnel noticed the nervous clerk approaching their operational planning session, unsure why someone from administrative support was interrupting strategic discussions about a mission that required specialized capabilities beyond anything available at Riverside Military Installation. Maya's transformation began before she spoke a single word. Her characteristic nervous posture straightened into the confident bearing of someone whose body remembered command presence even after years of hiding it beneath institutional invisibility. Her voice, when she addressed the assembled officers, carried a quiet authority that hadn't been present during 3 years of apologetic, administrative service but felt as natural as breathing to someone who had once commanded respect in the most dangerous operational environments on Earth. "Colonel Mitchell," Maya said, her words cutting through the ambient tension with professional precision, "I can execute the research station echo extraction mission." The silence that followed was profound enough to hear individual heartbeats. Throughout the conference room, Colonel Mitchell stared at Maya with the expression of someone trying to process information that didn't fit any familiar category, while Lieutenant Carter's eyes widened with recognition that the nervous clerk she had known for months was revealing capabilities that exceeded anything in her administrative file. "Rivera, what exactly are you saying?" Mitchell asked carefully, his tone balancing professional courtesy with genuine confusion about why administrative personnel would claim expertise in special operations that had defeated conventional military forces. Maya reached into her administrative folder and produced documentation that had been hidden there for 3 years, waiting for the moment when moral imperatives would override personal safety. The credentials she placed on the conference table bore the name Captain Maya Shadow Rivera, with ratings and clearances that caused experienced officers to lean forward with expressions of disbelief and rapidly shifting comprehension. 15 years Special Operations, 3rd Covert Operations Squadron, Maya stated simply, her voice carrying the matter-of-fact tone of someone presenting obvious facts rather than earth-shattering revelations. Deep Infiltration Specialist, Classified Facility Penetration, Hostage Extraction under Extreme Conditions. I maintain current tactical certification and psychological readiness for high-stress operations. The documentation that Maya spread across the conference table told a story that transformed her from invisible administrative support into one of the military's most legendary covert operatives. Mission reports that remained classified at the highest levels detailed operations in hostile territory that conventional forces couldn't attempt. Psychological assessments documented extraordinary resilience under pressure that had sustained her through situations that destroyed other personnel completely. Training certifications revealed expertise in infiltration techniques, advanced weapon systems, and hostage psychology that represented the pinnacle of special operations capability. Lieutenant Carter was the first to find her voice, her pilot training having taught her to recognize excellence even when it appeared in unexpected forms. Captain Rivera, you've been serving coffee and organizing files while possessing these qualifications? How is that even possible? Maya's explanation carried the complex mixture of professional pride and personal vulnerability that came from revealing truths she had hidden for 3 years. Medical disqualification from active special operations due to classified injuries sustained during my final mission. Administrative assignment was recommended for psychological adjustment and continued service within military structure. The 3rd Covert Operations Squadron was disbanded for political reasons, and personnel were scattered to conventional assignments or early retirement. Colonel Mitchell examined Maya's credentials with the thoroughness of someone whose decisions would determine whether 16 people lived or died while classified technology remained secure or fell into hostile hands. The mission reports documented exactly the type of operations that Research Station Echo would require deep penetration into facilities defended by sophisticated adversaries, extraction of personnel under conditions that conventional forces declared impossible, tactical creativity that turned offensive advantages into infiltration opportunities. These operations reports show successful completion of missions that our current planning staff considers theoretically impossible, Mitchell said slowly, his voice reflecting the growing comprehension that Maya represented capabilities he hadn't known existed within his installation. Captain Rivera, are you telling me that you've been maintaining operational readiness while serving in administrative capacity? Maya met his gaze with the steady confidence that had earned her legendary status among special operations communities worldwide. Colonel, psychological preparation for covert operations doesn't deteriorate through disuse. It becomes more refined through observation and analysis. I've spent 3 years studying this installation's security protocols, personnel capabilities, and operational patterns. My administrative position provided perfect cover for maintaining situational awareness and tactical readiness. Master Sergeant Wilson, who had supervised Maya's administrative work for 2 years, stepped forward with the practical perspective of someone who had learned to recognize competence regardless of its source. His expression reflected the amazement of someone realizing that extraordinary capabilities had been hidden beneath routine efficiency that he had attributed to nervous perfectionism rather than professional excellence. Captain, I've been watching you work around classified documentation for months, Wilson said, his tone carrying new respect that acknowledged Maya's true rank and capabilities. Your attention to detail, your understanding of operational security, your ability to process complex information, it all makes sense now. You weren't being overly cautious, you were maintaining professional standards that exceeded our requirements. The transformation in the conference room was immediate and profound as personnel who had known Maya as nervous administrative support began recognizing indicators they had missed for 3 years. Her positioning that provided optimal sight lines to all entrances, her analysis of documents that revealed operational implications beyond administrative requirements, her stress responses that suggested someone with advanced training rather than anxiety disorders. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, who had conducted Maya's psychological evaluations, provided the clinical perspective that validated Maya's claims about maintaining operational readiness despite her administrative assignment. Captain Rivera's psychological profiles always indicated exceptional emotional control disguised as anxiety responses. Her stress management techniques suggested someone with advanced training for high-pressure situations. The medical disqualification. that ended her special operations career was related to physical injury, not psychological incapacity. General Patricia Summers, monitoring the developing situation through secure communication link, represented the Pentagon's growing recognition that Maya Rivera might provide the solution that conventional military planning hadn't been able to develop. Her questions revealed the strategic thinking that would determine whether Maya's capabilities could be officially utilized for Research Station Echo extraction. Captain Rivera, your credentials document operations that remain classified at levels that prevent detailed discussion, but intelligence assessments suggest that Research Station Echo presents exactly the type of challenge that you're specialized. Training was designed to address, General Summers stated, her tone carrying the authority of someone whose decisions would be scrutinized by congressional oversight committees. What's your assessment of mission feasibility within our current timeline constraints? Maya's response demonstrated the tactical analysis that had made her legendary among personnel who understood the most challenging aspects of special operations. General, Research Station Echo's defenses are sophisticated, but not impenetrable to someone with deep infiltration training. The terrorist organization possesses advanced equipment and tactical knowledge, but they're defending static positions against techniques they haven't encountered. The hostage extraction presents psychological challenges that require specialized handling, but my experience with civilian personnel under stress provides methodologies that conventional forces don't possess. The conference room had transformed from a hub of frustrated conventional planning into a coordination center where extraordinary capabilities had suddenly become available for an impossible mission. Maya Rivera was no longer the nervous clerk who apologized for everything. She was Captain Shadow Rivera, whose legend was about to be tested against challenges that would determine whether 16 lives could be saved and national security could be preserved. The shocking revelation was complete, but the most dangerous part of Maya's journey was just beginning. The transformation of Conference Room Alpha from Crisis Management Center to Specialized Operations Planning Facility occurred with the swift efficiency of personnel who understood that extraordinary circumstances required extraordinary measures. Within 30 minutes of Maya's revelation, the space had been reconfigured with secure communication systems, classified tactical displays, and intelligence briefing materials that reflected the Pentagon's recognition that Captain Shadow Rivera represented their only viable option for preventing catastrophic failure at Research Station Echo. Maya stood before the assembled staff with the quiet confidence of someone whose legend had been built through successful completion of missions that others declared impossible. Her posture reflected years of command presence that administrative service hadn't diminished, while her eyes carried the analytical intensity that had sustained her through operations in hostile territory, where mistake meant death and success required tactical creativity that conventional training couldn't provide. General Patricia Summers addressed the briefing through secure video link, her tone carrying the authority of someone whose decisions would determine whether 16 lives could be saved while classified technology remained secure from adversaries who understood exactly how to exploit American vulnerabilities. The mission parameters she outlined revealed the full scope of challenges that Maya would face during an operation that would test every aspect of her specialized training. Captain Rivera, intelligence confirms that Research Station Echo is defended by approximately 25 hostile personnel with advanced military training and sophisticated equipment taken from our failed helicopter assault. General Summers began her briefing revealing tactical realities that would have deterred conventional special operations units. The facility's security protocols have been modified by terrorist technical specialists who possess detailed knowledge of our defensive systems and countermeasures. Maya absorbed the intelligence briefing with professional analysis that revealed why her specialized capabilities were essential for mission success. The terrorist organization's tactical sophistication exceeded standard threat assessments, while their positioning within Research Station Echo demonstrated understanding of defensive strategies that would defeat conventional infiltration attempts. But Maya recognized vulnerabilities in their approach that could be exploited through techniques that her covert operations training had taught her to identify and exploit. The satellite imagery displayed on tactical screens showed terrain that would challenge even experienced mountain warfare specialists, but Maya's analysis revealed approach routes that conventional planners had overlooked because they required infiltration methods that standard military training didn't include. Her experience with deep penetration operations had taught her to recognize opportunities where others saw only obstacles, while her understanding of facility security systems provided insights that intelligence assessments hadn't considered. The primary infiltration challenge involves bypassing perimeter defenses that include motion sensors, thermal imaging systems, and patrol patterns that cover all conventional approach vectors. Colonel Mitchell explained his tactical assessment, revealing why previous rescue attempts had failed catastrophically. Intelligence suggests that the facility's automated security systems remain partially functional, creating additional complications for any infiltration attempt. Maya's response demonstrated the tactical creativity that had made her legendary among special operations communities. Colonel, perimeter security systems are designed to detect conventional infiltration techniques, but they contain vulnerabilities that can be exploited through specialized approaches. My training included methods for defeating automated surveillance systems while using environmental factors to mask infiltration signatures that standard detection methods rely upon. Lieutenant Carter, whose pilot training had taught her to appreciate technical expertise, raised questions about insertion methods that revealed the complexity of Maya's operational requirements. Captain Rivera, how do you plan to reach the facility given that helicopter insertion has proven impossible and ground approach routes are monitored by hostile forces? Maya's explanation revealed capabilities that existed at the intersection of technology and human performance, where specialized training enabled operations that conventional forces couldn't attempt. Lieutenant, my insertion methodology combines high-altitude, low-opening parachute techniques with terrain navigation that utilizes natural features to avoid detection. The approach requires psychological preparation for extended solo operations in hostile territory, but my experience with deep cover missions provides the mental resilience that these conditions demand. The mission timeline that Maya outlined challenged conventional assumptions about what single operative could accomplish within the constraints that Research Station Echo imposed. Her plan required infiltration during limited weather windows, facility penetration using techniques that bypassed both automated security systems and human surveillance, hostage location and psychological preparation for extraction, and exfiltration under conditions that would prevent hostile pursuit or technology recovery. Master Sergeant Wilson, whose respect for Maya's capabilities had grown exponentially since her revelation, provided logistical support planning that revealed his understanding of her operational requirements. Captain, what specialized equipment do you need for this mission? We can coordinate with Pentagon resources to provide anything that standard inventory doesn't include. Maya's equipment requirements reflected the sophisticated technology that enabled her legendary operations, while remaining lightweight enough for solo infiltration missions. Sergeant, I need advanced night vision systems with thermal signature masking, communication equipment with encryption capabilities that hostile forces can't intercept, specialized climbing gear for vertical infiltration, routes and medical supplies configured for treating hostage population with various stress-related conditions. Dr. Jennifer Walsh joined the briefing to provide psychological consultation about hostage management that revealed additional complexities Maya would face during extraction operations. Her analysis of civilian scientists' psychological profiles indicated stress reactions that could complicate rescue procedures unless managed through techniques that conventional military personnel weren't taught. Captain Rivera, The hostage population includes individuals whose psychological preparation for crisis situations ranges from minimal to non-existent. Dr. Walsh explained, her expertise revealing human factors that tactical planning often overlooked. You'll be dealing with panic responses, medical condition deterioration, and group dynamics that might fragment under pressure during extraction procedures. Maya's response demonstrated understanding of hostage psychology that came from years of extracting personnel under extreme stress conditions. Dr. Civilian hostage management requires combination of tactical expertise and psychological understanding that my training specifically addressed. The key is establishing immediate credibility through professional competence, while providing psychological reassurance that enables cooperation during high-stress extraction procedures. The operational timeline that emerged from Maya's briefing revealed the precision required for mission success within the constraints that Research Station Echo imposed. Infiltration would occur during pre-dawn darkness when hostile patrol patterns created brief vulnerability windows. Facility penetration would utilize specialized techniques that bypassed both automated security systems and human surveillance. Hostage location and preparation would require psychological management alongside tactical execution. Exfiltration would demand coordination with support elements while preventing hostile pursuit or technology recovery. General Summers provided final authorization that carried the weight of Pentagon recognition that Maya Rivera represented their only viable option for preventing catastrophic failure. Captain Rivera, you're authorized for immediate deployment under emergency operational protocols. Intelligence suggests that hostile forces will begin executing hostages within 8 hours if their demands aren't met, while technology transfer could occur simultaneously unless prevented through successful intervention. Maya's acceptance of the mission carried the quiet confidence of someone whose legend had been built through operations that others declared impossible. General, I understand the mission parameters and accept full responsibility for operational outcomes. Research Station Echo presents challenges that require specialized capabilities, but my training and experience provide the methodologies necessary for successful completion. The briefing concluded with coordination procedures that would support Maya's solo operation, while maintaining operational security that prevented hostile forces from detecting American response capabilities. Communication protocols were established for monitoring mission progress, while contingency planning addressed potential complications that could arise during infiltration, extraction, or exfiltration phases. As personnel filed out of the conference room to begin mission preparation, Maya stood alone before the tactical displays that showed Research Station Echo's defensive positions and the terrain she would traverse during the most challenging operation of her career. The nervous clerk who had apologized for everything was gone forever, replaced by Captain Maya Rivera, whose legend was about to face its ultimate test. 16 lives depended on skills that hadn't been used professionally in 3 years. While national security hung in the balance of an operation that would either restore Maya's legendary status or prove that some missions were impossible even for the most extraordinary operatives. The Colorado wilderness stretched below Maya Rivera, like a moonlit battlefield as she descended through thin mountain air at 28,000 feet. Her high-altitude, low-opening parachute system cutting silently through darkness that concealed both her approach and the hostile forces defending Research Station Echo. At 0347 hours, Captain Maya Rivera was fully operational for the first time in 3 years, her legendary skills emerging from administrative dormancy with the fluid precision of someone whose muscle memory retained training that had cost millions of dollars and created capabilities that existed at the absolute pinnacle of human performance. Maya's insertion had been flawless, a textbook halo jump that utilized atmospheric conditions and terrain features to mask her infiltration signature from detection, systems that conventional special operations would trigger immediately. Her navigation during free fall demonstrated spatial awareness that enabled pinpoint accuracy, despite weather conditions that would have scattered less experienced operatives across miles of hostile territory. The landing zone she had selected appeared on satellite imagery as impossible terrain, but Maya's analysis had identified a narrow ledge that provided concealment while positioning her within striking distance of research station Echo's perimeter defenses. The equipment that Maya carried represented the intersection of advanced technology and specialized training, configured for an operative whose capabilities enabled solo missions that conventional forces couldn't attempt with entire units. Her night vision system provided thermal imaging capabilities, while masking her own heat signature from enemy detection equipment. Communication gear offered encrypted channels that hostile forces couldn't intercept while maintaining contact with Pentagon coordination centers. Specialized climbing equipment enabled vertical movement through terrain that appeared impassable to conventional assessment. Maya's approach to Research Station Echo's perimeter demonstrated why her legend had been built through successful completion of missions that others declared impossible. Rather than attempting to overcome the facility's defensive systems through force or technological superiority, she utilized infiltration techniques that turned defensive advantages into vulnerability opportunities. Her movement pattern avoided motion sensor coverage while exploiting blind spots that automated surveillance systems created through their own positioning requirements. The terrorist organization's tactical positioning revealed sophisticated understanding of conventional special operations doctrine, but their defensive arrangements hadn't anticipated infiltration methods that Maya's specialized training enabled. Their patrol patterns covered standard approach vectors while leaving gaps that could be exploited through techniques that required psychological preparation for extended solo operations in hostile territory. Their communication discipline was excellent by conventional standards, but Maya's experience with deep cover operations had taught her to recognize patterns that revealed timing opportunities. Maya's penetration of the facility's outer perimeter occurred during a 15-minute window when patrol rotations created temporary vulnerability in coverage that conventional planners would have missed entirely. Her movement through the facility's security barriers demonstrated capabilities that existed beyond normal human performance thresholds, combining physical conditioning with technological expertise and psychological resilience that sustained precision under extreme pressure. The facility's interior presented challenges that tested every aspect of Maya's specialized training while revealing why Research Station Echo had been considered impregnable to conventional assault. Automated security systems monitored movement through corridors that funneled intruders toward defensive positions, while hostile personnel maintained overlapping fields of fire that would eliminate conventional infiltration attempts. But Maya's approach utilized vertical movement routes that architectural planners had incorporated for maintenance access, creating infiltration opportunities that defensive positioning hadn't anticipated. Maya's navigation through Research Station Echo's complex interior revealed tactical knowledge that combined facility design analysis with understanding of human psychology under stress. She avoided areas where hostile forces expected intrusion, while using service corridors and maintenance spaces that provided concealment during movement toward the bunker systems where hostages were trapped. Her progress was methodical and silent, each movement calculated to avoid detection while positioning her for successful hostage extraction. The first contact with hostage population occurred when Maya located the civilian scientists through communication intercepts that revealed their psychological condition and medical status. Dr. Amanda Foster, the lead researcher, had maintained group cohesion despite panic responses among younger personnel, while elderly scientists were experiencing stress-related medical complications that required immediate attention. The military liaison officers had established defensive positions within the bunker, but their conventional training hadn't prepared them for extraction procedures that Maya's specialized capabilities enabled. Maya's initial contact with the hostages demonstrated psychological management techniques that combined tactical expertise with understanding of civilian behavior under extreme stress. Her approach balanced professional authority that established immediate credibility with reassuring presence that reduced panic responses among personnel who lacked preparation for crisis situations. The introduction she provided was carefully calibrated to inspire confidence while maintaining operational security that prevented hostile forces from detecting rescue operations. "I'm Captain Rivera, United States Special Operations," Maya announced quietly, her voice carrying the calm authority that had sustained civilian morale during previous extraction missions. "I'm here to bring you home safely. We're going to move through procedures that require your complete cooperation and trust in my guidance. Follow my instructions exactly, stay calm, and we'll have you reunited with your families within hours." The hostage preparation that Maya conducted revealed expertise that conventional military training didn't include, combining medical assessment with psychological evaluation and tactical planning. She identified individuals whose medical conditions required priority attention during extraction, assessed group dynamics that could affect cooperation during high-stress movement, and established communication protocols that would maintain coordination without compromising operational security. Dr. Foster's medical assessment revealed complications that would challenge extraction procedures designed for healthy personnel under optimal conditions. "Captain Rivera, we have 3 individuals with cardiac conditions that could deteriorate under stress, 2 elderly researchers whose mobility is limited, and several younger staff members whose psychological state approaches panic threshold. How do you plan to manage these factors during extraction?" Maya's response demonstrated understanding of medical and psychological factors that came from years of extracting personnel under conditions that conventional forces couldn't manage. "Doctor, my extraction methodology accounts for medical limitations and psychological stress through techniques that prioritize safety while maintaining operational tempo. We'll use psychological preparation to reduce stress responses, medical support to stabilize conditions, and movement procedures that accommodate physical limitations without compromising security." The extraction procedures that Maya implemented revealed capabilities that existed at the intersection of tactical expertise, medical knowledge, and psychological understanding. She established movement protocols that protected vulnerable personnel, while maintaining operational security, provided medical support that stabilized stress-related conditions, and coordinated group psychology that prevented panic responses. During high-stress extraction phases, Maya's guidance of the hostage group through Research Station Echo's complex interior demonstrated leadership that combined tactical knowledge with humanitarian concern, moving 16 people through hostile territory with precision that avoided detection while maintaining psychological stability that prevented panic responses. Her navigation utilized routes that she had memorized during infiltration, while her communication protocols maintained coordination without compromising operational security that protected both hostages and extraction procedures. The exfiltration phase tested Maya's capabilities against time constraints and hostile pursuit that would have overwhelmed conventional rescue operations. The terrorist organization had detected signs of infiltration and was conducting systematic searches that would discover the rescue operation unless Maya maintained perfect operational security while moving 16 people through terrain that challenged experienced mountain warfare specialists. Captain Shadow Rivera was proving that her legend had been built on capabilities that 3 years of administrative service hadn't diminished, demonstrating extraordinary skills that would either bring 16 people home safely or confirm that some missions exceeded even the most exceptional human performance. The most dangerous part of the operation was still ahead, but Maya's legendary skills were fully unleashed and functioning at the level that had made her irreplaceable among the world's most elite operatives. The secure communication link crackled with disbelief as Pentagon officials monitored real-time intelligence that confirmed what conventional military wisdom had declared impossible. At 0627 hours, exactly 14 minutes ahead of Maya's projected timeline, Captain Shadow Rivera emerged from Colorado wilderness leading 16 rescued hostages, whose survival had depended on capabilities that existed at the absolute pinnacle of special operations expertise. The extraction that had challenged every assumption about single operative mission parameters was not only successful, it had been executed with precision that would be studied in military academies for decades. General Patricia Summers' voice carried amazement that professional military bearing couldn't entirely conceal as she addressed the Pentagon's Crisis Management Center through secure video link. Confirm status on Research Station Echo extraction operation. Are we receiving accurate intelligence that Captain Rivera successfully extracted all 16 hostages without casualties while preventing technology transfer to hostile forces? Colonel Mitchell's response from Riverside Military Installation reflected the transformation that Maya's mission had created throughout the command structure. General confirmed. All hostages extracted safely with minimal medical complications. Hostile forces neutralized through non-lethal methods that preserved intelligence value. Classified technology secured and facility rendered inoperable for future terrorist use. Captain Rivera's operational performance exceeded all projections. A for mission success. The medical assessment that Dr. Jennifer Walsh conducted upon the hostages' arrival revealed the extraordinary care that Maya had provided during extraction procedures, designed to protect vulnerable personnel under extreme stress conditions. Despite cardiac patients, elderly researchers, and panic-prone civilians, the group had been guided through hostile territory with medical management that prevented serious complications, while maintaining operational security that avoided detection by sophisticated adversaries. Captain Rivera's handling of hostage psychology and medical conditions was remarkable. Dr. Walsh reported to the assembled debriefing team. She managed to maintain group cohesion among individuals whose stress responses should have compromised extraction procedures, while providing medical support that stabilized conditions that could have become life-threatening under conventional extraction methods. The technological intelligence that Maya had secured during her infiltration of Research Station Echo provided strategic advantages that extended far beyond the immediate hostage rescue mission. Her documentation of terrorist organization capabilities, facility security vulnerabilities, and operational methodologies would enable counterterrorism improvements that could prevent similar attacks for years. The classified technology that she had secured would remain protected while hostile forces lost access to systems they had planned to exploit for future operations. Lieutenant Emma Carter, whose pilot training had taught her to appreciate exceptional performance under pressure, provided perspective that revealed how Maya's capabilities had influenced personnel throughout Riverside Military Installation. Captain Rivera's operational excellence wasn't just about technical expertise. It was about demonstrating that extraordinary capabilities can emerge from unexpected sources when moral imperatives require exceptional service. Master Sergeant Frank Wilson, who had supervised Maya's administrative work for 2 years without recognizing her true capabilities, offered insights that revealed the sophistication of her 3-year cover operation. Looking back, every aspect of Captain Rivera's administrative performance was actually operational preparation disguised as routine efficiency. Her attention to detail, her understanding of security protocols, her analytical capabilities, everything indicated someone maintaining readiness for exactly this type of mission. The Joint Chiefs of Staff convened emergency session to assess the strategic implications of Maya's successful mission while addressing questions about how legendary special operations capabilities had remained hidden within routine administrative assignments. The briefing that General Summers provided revealed institutional recognition that extraordinary Personnel might exist throughout military structure without conventional identification. Methods detecting their potential contributions. Captain Rivera's case raises fundamental questions about how we identify and utilize specialized capabilities within our current personnel management systems. General Summers explained to the assembled Joint Chiefs. Her administrative assignment was appropriate given medical disqualification from active special operations, but the mission she just completed demonstrates that exceptional capabilities don't disappear through conventional retirement or reassignment. Procedures. The Congressional Oversight Committee that monitored special operations activities requested immediate briefing about Maya's background and the circumstances that had enabled her successful completion of a mission that conventional forces couldn't attempt. The political implications extended beyond military effectiveness to questions about resource allocation, personnel management, and strategic planning that could influence defense policy for years. Maya's post-mission debriefing revealed analytical insights that would reshape special operations doctrine, while providing tactical innovations that could enhance future mission capabilities. Her infiltration methodologies combined technological advances with human performance techniques that created operational possibilities conventional planning hadn't considered. Her hostage management procedures offered psychological and medical approaches that could improve civilian evacuation protocols under extreme stress conditions. The mission parameters at Research Station Echo required integration of multiple specialized capabilities that conventional unit structure doesn't typically combine. Maya explained during her tactical assessment briefing. Success depended on simultaneous application of infiltration expertise, medical knowledge, psychological management, and technological competence that my training had specifically designed to coordinate during solo operations. The international intelligence community's response to Maya's mission success revealed recognition that American special operations capabilities exceeded assessments that adversaries had developed through observation of conventional military operations. The terrorist organization's sophisticated planning had been defeated through methods that demonstrated capabilities existing beyond standard special operations doctrine, creating strategic advantages that could influence geopolitical calculations for decades. Dr. Amanda Foster, the lead researcher whose leadership had maintained hostage group cohesion during captivity, provided civilian perspective that revealed Maya's impact beyond purely military considerations. Captain Rivera's professionalism and competence during our extraction created confidence that enabled cooperation under conditions that should have triggered panic responses. Her approach combined tactical expertise with humanitarian concern that demonstrated the best aspects of American military excellence. The media attention that followed Maya's mission focused predictably on dramatic aspects of her story, the hidden legend revealed by crisis, the impossible mission accomplished through extraordinary capabilities, the administrative clerk whose true identity shocked the Pentagon's senior leadership. But Maya understood that the real significance extended beyond individual recognition to institutional questions about how exceptional capabilities could be identified and utilized within conventional military structure. The personal transformation that Maya experienced during her return to legendary status was complex and profound, involving recognition that her administrative service had been valuable, preparation for operational challenges that required understanding of military bureaucracy, alongside tactical expertise. Her 3 years of institutional invisibility had provided perspectives that enhanced rather than diminished her special operations capabilities. As evening approached at Riverside Military Installation, Maya stood in the same conference room where she had revealed her identity 18 hours earlier, but the nervous clerk who had apologized for everything was gone forever. Captain Shadow Rivera had returned, not just through successful mission completion, but through institutional recognition that her extraordinary capabilities represented strategic assets that required different management approaches than conventional Personnel administration provided. The Joint Chiefs of Staff were preparing offers that would transform Maya's career while acknowledging that her unique combination of operational excellence and institutional understanding created opportunities for service that hadn't existed before her legendary skills had been tested once again under conditions that proved their continuing relevance for national security challenges. Monday morning arrived at Riverside Military Installation with the weight of decision pressing down on Maya Rivera like atmospheric pressure before a significant weather change. The conference room that had witnessed her shocking revelation 3 days earlier now hosted representatives from the Pentagon's most senior leadership, each offering career opportunities that would restore her legendary status while acknowledging that Captain Shadow Rivera possessed capabilities too valuable to remain hidden within routine administrative assignments. But Maya had spent 3 years learning that service took many forms, all of them meaningful when performed with competence and dedication to something larger than personal recognition. General Patricia Summers arrived via military transport with documentation that revealed the scope of opportunities available to someone whose recent mission had demonstrated exceptional capabilities under conditions that conventional special operations couldn't manage. The offers ranged from immediate return to active special operations with promotion to major, to leadership positions within training programs that would develop the next generation of covert operatives, to advisory roles that would influence strategic planning at the highest levels of government. Captain Rivera, your performance at Research Station Echo has created unprecedented interest throughout the special operations community, General Summers explained, her tone carrying the professional respect that Maya's mission had earned from personnel whose own careers had been built through exceptional service. The Joint Chiefs recognize that your unique combination of operational excellence and institutional perspective represents strategic capabilities that we need to utilize more effectively. Maya absorbed the offers with careful consideration that reflected 3 years of learning to find satisfaction in forms of service that didn't require extraordinary recognition or life-threatening responsibility. Her administrative assignment had taught her to appreciate the value of enabling others' success rather than seeking personal glory, while her recent mission had reminded her of the satisfaction that came from utilizing specialized capabilities when they were genuinely needed for purposes that transcended individual achievement. Lieutenant Emma Carter, whose respect for Maya had grown exponentially since learning her true identity, provided perspective that revealed how Maya's revelation had influenced thinking throughout the installation. Captain Rivera, watching your transformation from administrative support to legendary operative has changed how I think about potential that might be hidden throughout our military structure. Your approach to service, both visible and invisible, demonstrates leadership that goes beyond conventional recognition systems. The complexity of Maya's decision reflected psychological factors that extended beyond career advancement to questions about identity, purpose, and the relationship between individual capabilities and institutional service. Her 3 years of administrative routine had provided psychological healing from the traumatic conclusion of her special operations career, while demonstrating that competence and dedication could create value regardless of recognition or dramatic. Our ESPONS IBILITY Dr. Jennifer Walsh joined the discussion to provide psychological consultation that revealed insights about Maya's adjustment to both her hidden identity and her recent return to operational status. Captain Rivera's psychological profile indicates exceptional resilience and adaptability that enables her to find satisfaction in diverse forms of service. Her administrative performance demonstrated commitment to excellence regardless of external recognition, while her recent mission confirmed that operational capabilities remain at peak effectiveness. Maya's response revealed the wisdom she had gained during 3 years of learning that service could be meaningful without being extraordinary, while understanding that her specialized capabilities carried moral obligations. when situations required intervention that others couldn't provide. General, I appreciate the recognition and the opportunities being offered, but I'd like to propose something different that honors both my operational capabilities and my commitment to institutional service. The solution Maya presented reflected integration of her dual identities rather than choosing between them, creating a service model that utilized her legendary capabilities while maintaining connection to the community-building aspects of her administrative experience. She proposed part-time special operations availability for missions requiring her specialized expertise, combined with training responsibilities that would develop similar capabilities among younger personnel, while maintaining involvement in institutional functions that contributed to community cohesion. I'd like to establish a hybrid assignment that provides operational availability for situations requiring deep infiltration capabilities, while developing training programs that could identify and nurture similar potential among personnel whose capabilities might not be recognized through conventional assessment methods. Maya explained, her proposal revealing strategic thinking that extended beyond personal career considerations to institutional improvement. Master Sergeant Wilson, whose understanding of Maya's administrative contributions had been transformed by learning her true background, supported her proposal with practical perspective about the value she had created through seemingly routine service. Captain Rivera's administrative work was actually operational preparation that benefited the entire installation through improved efficiency and security awareness. Her hybrid approach could create similar benefits while maintaining specialized capabilities for crisis response. The training program that Maya envisioned would address gaps in special operations development that conventional military education didn't recognize, combining technical instruction with psychological preparation and institutional understanding that her unique experience had taught her to integrate. Her approach would identify personnel whose potential exceeded their current assignments, while developing capabilities that could enhance overall military effectiveness. Colonel Mitchell provided command perspective that recognized Maya's proposal as innovation that could influence military personnel management beyond Riverside Military Installation. Captain Rivera's hybrid service model could provide template for utilizing exceptional capabilities while maintaining institutional connection that purely special operations assignments often sacrifice. Her approach balances individual excellence with community contribution in ways that current career paths don't typically accommodate. The Pentagon's response to Maya's proposal revealed institutional recognition that her case represented opportunities for innovation that could enhance military effectiveness while addressing personnel management challenges that conventional approaches hadn't resolved. Her integration of operational excellence with administrative competence created possibilities for service that transcended traditional career categories. General Summers' approval carried implications that extended beyond Maya's individual assignment to policy considerations that could influence how the military identified and utilized exceptional capabilities throughout its personnel structure. Captain Rivera, your proposed hybrid assignment is approved with full Pentagon support. Your approach to integrating specialized capabilities with institutional service could provide model for enhanced military effectiveness that we're eager to implement. The personal satisfaction that Maya experienced in her decision reflected psychological integration that honored both her legendary capabilities and her commitment to forms of service that enabled others' success rather than seeking individual recognition. Her choice demonstrated that extraordinary capabilities could be utilized through approaches that created value for entire communities rather than isolating exceptional performers within specialized roles. As Maya prepared to begin her hybrid assignment, she understood that her journey from hidden legend to revealed operative to integrated service provider represented evolution rather than simple career change. Captain Shadow Rivera would remain available for missions requiring her specialized expertise, while Maya Rivera would continue contributing to institutional excellence through training, mentoring, and community-building activities that honored her commitment to service in all its forms. The transformation was complete, but the most meaningful chapter of Maya's career was just beginning as she demonstrated that legendary capabilities could enhance rather than separate from the everyday excellence that sustained military communities and enabled extraordinary performance when circumstances demanded intervention that only the most exceptional personnel could provide. 6 months after the research station Echo rescue, Riverside Military Installation had been transformed into something unprecedented in military history, a training and development center where hidden potential was systematically identified and nurtured through methodologies that Captain Maya Shadow Rivera had developed by combining her legendary operational experience with 3 years of observing how extraordinary capabilities could remain invisible within conventional institutional structures. The ripple effects of Maya's revelation had created changes that extended far beyond individual career advancement to fundamental shifts in how the military approached talent identification and capability development. The Advanced Potential Assessment program that Maya established represented revolutionary thinking about human capability evaluation, utilizing techniques that identified exceptional qualities disguised as routine competence throughout military personnel systems. Her methodology combined psychological assessment with observational analysis and practical testing that revealed capabilities which conventional evaluation systems consistently overlooked. The results have been extraordinary personnel whose potential had remained hidden for years were demonstrating abilities that exceeded anything their previous assignments had suggested. Lieutenant Emma Carter had been among the first beneficiaries of Maya's innovative approach, her pilot training, providing foundation for advanced reconnaissance capabilities that standard career development wouldn't have recognized or developed. Under Maya's guidance, Carter had learned infiltration techniques that combined aviation expertise with ground operations, creating hybrid capabilities that enabled missions requiring both air and surface competence. Captain Rivera's training methodology goes beyond teaching specific skills, Carter explained to visiting Pentagon officials who were evaluating the program for potential implementation at other installations. She teaches you to recognize capabilities you didn't know you possessed while developing psychological resilience that enables performance under conditions that would overwhelm conventionally trained personnel. The psychological transformation that Maya's program created among participating personnel reflected her understanding that exceptional performance required mental preparation alongside technical training. Her approach addressed confidence issues, imposter syndrome, and fear of failure that prevented many capable individuals from attempting challenges that their skills could actually handle successfully. Sergeant Tony Martinez, whose mechanical expertise had been enhanced through Maya's program into advanced technical infiltration capabilities, represented the type of personnel development that conventional systems rarely achieved. His combination of mechanical knowledge with covert operations training had created specialization in defeating security systems that protected high-value targets, capabilities that intelligence agencies were requesting for classified operations. Before Captain Rivera's program, I thought my skills were limited to routine maintenance work, Martinez shared during program evaluation interviews. She helped me understand that mechanical expertise could be applied to operational challenges that I never imagined attempting. The confidence and training she provided have completely changed my understanding of what I'm capable of accomplishing. The institutional changes that Maya's program had created extended beyond individual development to organizational culture transformation that valued hidden potential alongside recognized achievement. Personnel throughout Riverside Military Installation had learned to observe colleagues more carefully, recognizing indicators of exceptional capability that might be disguised as nervous perfectionism or overcautious thoroughness. Master Sergeant. Frank Wilson had become one of Maya's most effective collaborators in identifying personnel whose administrative efficiency actually indicated analytical capabilities that could be developed for intelligence operations. His revised approach to supervision included assessment techniques that Maya had taught him to recognize potential that standard management methods missed completely. Captain Rivera changed how I evaluate everyone under my supervision, Wilson explained to other senior non-commissioned officers during training seminars. I learned that what appears to be anxiety or excessive attention to detail might actually indicate someone with exceptional analytical capabilities who lacks confidence in their potential. Maya's methodology helps identify and develop those capabilities systematically. The success stories emerging from Maya's program had attracted attention from special operations commands throughout the military, with requests for her training methodology to be implemented at installations where conventional talent development had plateau effects that prevented optimal utilization of available human resources. The Pentagon had authorized expansion of her approach to include psychological preparation techniques that could enhance performance among personnel whose capabilities exceeded their current confidence levels. Dr. Jennifer Walsh provided psychological consultation that documented the program's effectiveness in developing resilience and confidence among participants whose potential had been limited by self-doubt rather than actual capability limitations. Her research revealed that many military personnel possessed exceptional abilities that remained dormant due to psychological factors rather than skill deficiencies. Captain Rivera's approach addresses psychological barriers that prevent individuals from attempting challenges they're actually capable of handling successfully. Dr. Walsh reported to military psychology conferences where her findings were generating significant interest. Her combination of confidence building with practical skill development creates psychological transformation that enables exceptional performance under conditions that would overwhelm less prepared personnel. The international attention that Maya's program had received reflected recognition that her methodology represented innovation in human potential development that transcended purely military applications. Educational institutions, corporate training programs, and leadership development organizations were requesting consultation about techniques that could identify and nurture exceptional capabilities disguised as routine competence. The crisis intervention capabilities that Maya maintained alongside her training responsibilities had been tested twice during the 6 months following Research Station Echo, each mission confirming that her legendary skills remained at peak effectiveness, while her institutional integration enhanced rather than diminished her operational capabilities. The combination of ongoing operational readiness with training excellence had created service model that other exceptional personnel were requesting to emulate. Colonel James Mitchell, whose leadership had enabled Maya's innovative approach to flourish within conventional military structure, provided command perspective that revealed how her program was influencing thinking throughout senior military leadership. Captain Rivera has demonstrated that exceptional capabilities can be systematically identified and developed rather than discovered accidentally through crisis situations. Her methodology provides framework for enhancing military effectiveness through better utilization of human potential that exists throughout our personnel structure. The mentoring relationships that Maya had developed with program participants reflected her understanding that capability development required personal connection alongside technical instruction. Her approach combined professional expertise with genuine concern for individual growth, creating learning environment where personnel felt supported in attempting challenges that exceeded their previous confidence levels. Lieutenant Sarah Kim, whose intelligence analysis capabilities had been enhanced through Maya's program into advanced psychological operations expertise, represented the type of capability multiplication that institutional leaders were recognizing as strategic advantage. Her development from routine analyst to specialist in human Behavior assessment had created operational possibilities that conventional training programs rarely achieved. Captain Rivera's mentoring goes beyond skill development to helping you understand how your unique combination of capabilities can create value that exceeds standard role definitions, Kim explained during program documentation interviews. She teaches you to recognize patterns in your own performance that indicate potential you hadn't realized you possessed. The community impact that Maya's presence had created at Riverside Military Installation extended beyond formal training. Programs to cultural transformation that valued continuous learning and mutual support among personnel whose capabilities might complement each other in unexpected ways. The installation had become known throughout the military as a place where individual excellence was developed alongside institutional cohesion. As Maya observed the changes her program had created, she understood that her greatest legacy might not be her legendary missions, but her demonstration that exceptional capabilities could be systematically developed while maintaining connection to institutional values that emphasize service to others rather than individual recognition. The ripple effects of her approach were creating waves of positive change that would influence military effectiveness for generations while proving that hidden potential existed throughout organizations, waiting for appropriate development methodologies to reveal its extraordinary possibilities. 2 years after the revelation that shocked the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Captain Maya Rivera stood before the Pentagon's most senior leadership, delivering the final briefing on a transformation that had exceeded every prediction about what one individual's courage could accomplish when hidden truth was revealed for purposes larger than personal recognition. The conference room where she presented her findings contained officials whose careers had been built through understanding military effectiveness, but Maya's program had demonstrated innovations in human potential development that challenged fundamental assumptions about capability identification and institutional excellence. That the statistical evidence that Maya presented revealed the scope of change that her methodology had created throughout military installations where her advanced potential assessment program had been implemented. Personnel whose capabilities had remained hidden within routine assignments were now contributing to missions that required exceptional performance, while institutional culture had shifted toward recognizing and developing potential that conventional evaluation systems consistently overlooked. The program has identified and developed exceptional capabilities among 847 personnel across 12 installations, with performance improvements that exceed conventional training outcomes by margins that statistical analysis indicates shouldn't be possible, Maya reported to the assembled Pentagon leadership. More significantly, institutional culture changes have created environments where continuous capability development has become standard expectation rather than exceptional occurrence. General Patricia Summers, whose recognition of Maya's potential had enabled the transformation that followed, provided perspective that revealed how the program's success had influenced strategic thinking about human resource development throughout the military's senior leadership. The implications extended beyond immediate operational effectiveness to long-term strategic advantages that could influence national security for decades. Captain Rivera's program has demonstrated that exceptional capabilities exist throughout our personnel structure in quantities and varieties that previous assessment methods failed to detect, General Summers explained to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The strategic implications suggest that our military effectiveness could be enhanced dramatically through systematic implementation of methodologies that identify and develop hidden potential rather than relying on accidental discovery through crisis situations. The international recognition that Maya's program had received reflected acknowledgement that her innovations represented breakthroughs in human potential development that transcended military applications. Educational institutions, corporate leadership programs, and government agencies were implementing variations of her methodology, while requesting consultation about techniques that could enhance organizational effectiveness through better utilization of available human capabilities. Lieutenant Emma Carter, whose own development through Maya's program had led to promotion and assignment to special operations units, provided testimony that revealed how individual transformation could multiply throughout organizational structures. Her success had inspired other personnel to pursue capability development that exceeded their previous confidence levels while demonstrating possibilities that conventional career paths rarely accommodated. Captain Rivera's program doesn't just develop individual capabilities, it creates cultural transformation that enables everyone to recognize and support potential development among their colleagues. Carter explained during program evaluation presentations. The institutional changes have created environments where exceptional performance becomes achievable for personnel whose capabilities were previously limited by psychological barriers rather than actual skill deficiencies. The psychological research that Dr. Jennifer Walsh had conducted throughout the program's implementation provided scientific validation for Maya's intuitive understanding that exceptional capabilities often remained hidden due to confidence issues rather than competence limitations. Her findings had influenced military psychology approaches while contributing to academic understanding of human potential development under institutional conditions. Captain Rivera's methodology addresses fundamental psychological factors that prevent individuals from attempting challenges they're actually capable of handling successfully. Dr. Walsh reported to professional conferences where her research was generating significant interest. The combination of practical skill development with psychological preparation creates transformation that enables performance levels that participants didn't believe they could achieve. The crisis intervention missions that Maya had conducted during the program's development period confirmed that her legendary operational capabilities remained at peak effectiveness, while her institutional integration had enhanced, rather than diminished, her specialized skills. Each mission had demonstrated that exceptional individuals could maintain readiness for extraordinary challenges while contributing to everyday organizational excellence that sustained community effectiveness. Master Sergeant Wilson, whose understanding of personnel evaluation had been transformed through collaboration with Maya's program, represented the type of leadership development that created sustainable institutional change. His ability to recognize and nurture potential among personnel under his supervision had influenced similar transformation among senior non-commissioned officers throughout installations where the program operated. Captain Rivera taught me that what appears to be nervous perfectionism or excessive attention to detail might actually indicate exceptional analytical capabilities that could be developed for advanced responsibilities. Wilson explained during training seminars for military supervisors. Her methodology provides framework for identifying and developing potential that conventional management approaches consistently miss. The policy changes that Maya's program had influenced represented institutional recognition that talent identification and development required approaches that addressed psychological factors alongside technical assessment. Military personnel management had begun incorporating methodologies that valued hidden potential alongside demonstrated achievement while creating development pathways that accommodated diverse expressions of exceptional capability. The personal satisfaction that Maya experienced in her hybrid service role reflected integration of her legendary capabilities with commitment to enabling others' success rather than seeking individual recognition. Her approach had demonstrated that extraordinary individuals could enhance institutional effectiveness through approaches that created value for entire communities rather than isolating exceptional performers within specialized roles. Service takes many forms, and the most meaningful contributions often emerge from willingness to use whatever capabilities you possess when they're needed for purposes larger than personal advancement. Maya reflected during interviews about her program's development. My legendary status came from individual achievements, but my most significant impact has come from helping others discover and develop capabilities they didn't know they possessed. The mentoring relationships that Maya had developed with program participants had created networks of exceptional performers whose capabilities complemented each other in ways that multiplied organizational effectiveness exponentially. The collaborative approach to capability development had demonstrated that individual excellence could enhance rather than compete with collective achievement when properly coordinated through institutional structures that valued both. Lieutenant Sarah Kim, whose development from routine analyst to psychological operations specialist had created capabilities that intelligence agencies were requesting for classified missions, represented the type of transformation that validated Maya's values. Understanding that exceptional potential existed throughout military personnel structure waiting for appropriate development methodologies. Captain Rivera's program changed my understanding of what I'm capable of accomplishing while teaching me to recognize similar potential among colleagues whose capabilities might be disguised as routine competence. King explained during program evaluation interviews. The cultural transformation has created an environment where exceptional performance becomes achievable for everyone willing to attempt challenges that exceed their previous confidence levels. As Maya prepared to transition her program to institutional management that would enable expansion throughout military structure while maintaining operational availability for missions requiring her specialized expertise, she understood that her greatest legacy would be demonstration that hidden potential could be systematically revealed and developed through approaches that honored both individual capabilities and institutional values. The nervous clerk who had apologized for everything had become a legend whose greatest achievement wasn't saving 16 lives during an impossible mission, but proving that extraordinary capabilities existed throughout organizations, waiting for courage to reveal them and wisdom to develop them for purposes that transcended individual recognition while creating lasting positive change that would influence countless others to discover their own hidden potential. Captain Shadow Rivera had found something more valuable than legendary status. She had created a legacy that would enable future generations to discover and develop exceptional capabilities, while understanding that true service meant using whatever gifts you possessed when they were needed most, regardless of recognition or personal advancement. The invisible expert had become visible not through self-promotion, but through willingness to use her extraordinary capabilities for purposes larger than herself, creating transformation that would influence military effectiveness and human potential development for decades, while proving that the most powerful legends were often written by those who understood that individual excellence achieved its greatest meaning when it enabled others to discover and develop their own extraordinary possibilities. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.